What's up, Dream Builder? Are you someone who's interested in creating a life by your design through all things real estate? Well, I can assure you, you are in the right place. Join me, your host, Casanova Brooks. I'm an award-winning real estate agent and investor as we uncover the top tips, strategies, and the mindset of the top real estate entrepreneurs across the world. Stay locked in because we're about to go on a journey that will change your life. What's up, Dream Builder? We are back again with another real estate episode. And today on the line, I'm excited to bring to you my brother, Mr. Chastin Miles. Chastin, you want to go ahead and say what's up to Dreamnation?
What's up, Dreamnation? How y'all doing out there?
Man, it's a beautiful day out here. I know that you're in Dallas. I'm in Omaha. I'm sure that the sun is shining in Dallas. I know that it is here in Omaha. But I always love to make sure we give the proper introduction. And you have been a mogul in the social media real estate world for many years. You didn't just start this. And so I want to make sure for anybody who doesn't already know who you are, give the people a little bit of background on how you got your start in real estate.
Sure. Yeah. So one thing about me and my start in real estate, I didn't come from a real estate background or real estate family, anything like that. I didn't really even know a lot about real estate. I wasn't one of those people who grew up going to open houses and all of that. My real estate journey literally started with me and some of my friends back in college when I was in school. We were looking to move off campus because we wanted to have our own off-campus house to throw parties at and invite all our friends over without getting in trouble. And through looking for one, got in contact with this real estate agent. She had posted signs all over campus advertising rentals, like off-campus rentals. So called the number, ended up meeting with her because she wanted to meet with all of us. And it was at her office, and it was a real estate office. Not only was this a real estate office, but it was also like a real estate school. So there was like pictures on the wall, make your career move, and just advertisements for back in the day and stuff like that. So she's sitting there, she's telling us about rentals. We're getting excited. We found a few that we liked. She puts us in the car. We go out there and we take a look at them. Super excited again. And so we're about to pull the trigger. And then I was like, wait. How much is it going to cost us to be using you? Because we had did all this with them. And I realized that we hadn't discussed, like, she going to hit us with this big bill and everything. And she was like, no, you don't have to pay me. And I was like, what? And now I'm thinking it's a scam.
Right.
But she was saying that she got paid from the homeowners and from the other side. So then I became intrigued. I was like, how much money are you going to make? So she told us how much money she was going to make on it. And I only think it was a few $1,000s, maybe like $2,000. But when she told me that $2,000, me being that broke college kid, I was hooked. Right. And I was like, I want to do this. What can I do? She told me how I can get started. I didn't even know like this was real estate. I was just like, hey, this is some job. And I can do that. I know a lot of people. I got enrolled in that real estate school there. I ended up talking to people into giving me a payment plan because I couldn't really afford the classes. And that's what began my real estate journey. I ended up dropping out of the classes because, like I said, I couldn't afford it, so I couldn't get the second payment. But I came back to it a couple of years later, and yeah, that's when my journey started.
Man, I love it. And the thing that I love the most and what I heard is curiosity. So in the beginning, you're like, wait, how do I pay this? And you got to ask the question. If you don't, then you're always got it in the back of your mind. And then she's like, oh, you don't pay me. It's already negotiated on the seller side. And you're like, wait, how much is negotiated? And she tells you. But I think that that's where a lot of people that get excited about real estate, they have that curiosity. So you jump in, you decide that you're going to at least make an attempt to get your license, but then you can't afford that second payment. Did you have a little bit of like remorse or regret? What made you get back into it? How, and was it a couple months? Was it a couple years? When did you jump back into completing the classes?
Sure. What made me get back into it actually was just one statement. So as I was leaving that day, as I was telling the people that I couldn't continue, and I was leaving excited because I knew that I was going to come back once I had more money. But the owner of the school, I'll never forget this. He was sitting on the porch leaned back. Now this is in the country part of Georgia. So he's sitting in his rocking chair, leaned back, and he had a cigarette in his mouth. And I was like, "I'll see you soon, sir." And he just straight up told me, he was like, "I hear that all the time. You're not coming back."
Mm,
And I was like, "Yeah." But then I noticed like a few months had passed, 6 months, and then a year had passed, and I realized I hadn't been back yet.
mm.
And it was at that point in my mind that I was like, this man is right, but I didn't want him to be. And so I ended up going back to real estate school. I didn't go back to that one, but I aggressively saved up money for that whole next 12 months. So it was a whole 2 years later before I finally went back. But yeah, I did it. I had at that point in my mind that this is what I was going to do. And I was working really hard to make it back. That was the mission.
Man.
So
So when
yeah.
you first start out, now you complete it. You're like, man, I did it. Did you start out in Georgia?
No, I actually started out here in Texas because I wanted just a fresh, new, clean slate, which this was one of those things that I regretted for a while because remember, I didn't know anything about real estate. I didn't know anything about the business. I didn't even know that it was heavily relationship based.
Hmm.
And so here I go, pack up all my bags and move across the country because I just want to start a new life, not knowing anybody, not knowing the streets, not having a network, but this is where I was going to start real estate. And so I started here in Dallas. I enrolled in online school and got my license here in Dallas. And it was just literally like a blank slate for me starting out.
Wow. So there's a couple of things because anybody listening right now, and a lot of people that are listening to this, they're thinking about getting into real estate. So what was the online school, if you remember, and would you recommend it? If you would recommend it, what was that online school that you took your classes at?
Sure, it was Real Estate Express. It was Real Estate Express, and the reason I took my classes with them was because they had on their website that they had this guarantee that if you didn't pass, you got your money back. And remember,
Hmm.
I need all my money. So I was like, if this doesn't work out, at least I'll get my money back. So
Man.
yeah, I use Real Estate Express.
Got it. Cool. And what was your experience like? Was it a good experience? Was it a bad experience? Like you just got through it? Would you do it again? If you had to go get your license again and you were doing it online, would you use them again?
Yeah, I actually would, and I've formed some close bonds with them over the years, just being in the industry now. But I've also taken some classes, CE classes at other real estate schools, just to compare the experience. And yeah, it was really great for someone like me because I wasn't that guy in school that was smart. I didn't know a lot of things. I was literally that guy in school that was coming in the classroom in the morning, doing my homework in the morning before it was due 5 minutes later, and
Mm.
most times copying off of somebody. Like I'm just being real. So I can't really study like some people can and just retain information from reading the textbook. So I liked how they laid out the curriculum and how they constantly tested you throughout the course to make sure that you were actually remembering the information, and ended up doing that through Real Estate Express. And then I took one of those last minute exam cram courses at one of the local schools here. So it was just like a 2 day thing.
Hmm.
And I was like, well, maybe I should take something locally just in case they tell me something that I need to know here. So I did that. And the combination of those two, I passed my test on the first try by one question. Like
So all that
everybody
matters.
else will probably do a lot better, but I passed it by one question. But hey, a pass is a pass at that point.
Pass is a
So
pass. I tell people that all the time. Oh man, they get so worked up on it. It's listen, I think I passed mine by maybe 4 or 5 questions. It was pretty tight. I didn't ace it for sure. But here's what I'll say. Even after my first year, my second year, no one ever asked me, hey, but how much did you pass your test by?
yeah,
It
yeah,
doesn't matter.
right.
You just got to pass the test because for a lot of the times that test doesn't even teach you how to build relationships, like you said, and how to actually sell real estate. It just teaches you how to not go in front of your state real estate commission so you can get your license taken.
Yeah, exactly.
So fast forward now, you've gotten your license. You're like, man, I did it. What was that first year like for you? Was it a struggle? Did you bust out of the gates and start selling?
It was the biggest struggle that I think I've ever experienced in my life. One of the biggest. No, it wasn't pretty by any means. I didn't make a lot of money. It didn't jump off like I thought it was going to jump off. I went and joined a Keller Williams office, And I had did a little bit of research on Keller Williams, and I was reading blogs and everyone was saying they have great training. And so I tried to find like the busiest Keller Williams office here in the state of Texas, found them, joined that office. And I was just there. I was going through the motions. And by going through the motion, I was going through the training classes that they say to go to and showing up every day and doing what I thought needed to be done, but nothing was happening. And so that went on for some months. And then someone suggested, well, maybe you should look into a different office. So I did that. I was like, I want to move into like downtown Dallas and I want to sell condos and high rises and stuff. So I moved to this Keller Williams office that was closer to downtown, still with even bigger dreams, but still nothing was happening. I watched this video, or it was either a video or I was reading something, and I was reading on cold calling, and people were telling me about for sale by owners and expireds. And I'll never forget, there was this guy who was in that office. He would show up every single day and he would just hit the phones calling for 2 hours, 3 hours. And I don't think he ever got anything out of it, but I was like, why is he constantly doing this? It doesn't sound like it's working.
Yeah.
But knowing what I know today, something was working for him to keep doing it. And so I put in my mind that I was going to start this. Like I was going to cold call. I was going to start this, had all my scripts laid out. And then I went down that journey finally, ended up getting my first listing from a cold call from a for sale by owner. I hadn't even seen the home. He gave me the listing over the phone. And I'll never forget this because he's telling me about the home. And then he says, call me back and let me know what you think this home is worth. So I wasn't doing anything else. I quickly got on it, got another agent to help me run some comps. And I called him back probably 30 minutes later. And he said, I'm going to give you this listing. I'm going to give you a chance to sell it. And I was like, okay, great. Yeah, I'm gonna send you over the paperwork. And then
Right.
he goes, do you want to know why I'm giving it to you? I said, oh yeah, duh. Yeah, yeah. Why are you giving it to me? He said, because you actually did what you said that you were going to do. Just showing him that I said that I was going to tell him the value, and I called him back shortly with the value was why he gave me that listing. I
Mm.
couldn't sell that listing for anything. Like I was trying any and everything to do to sell that listing. Months were going by. It got to the point where I was doing open houses every single weekend, Saturday and Sunday, all day, just trying to get a buyer for that listing. There was this one morning that I was getting ready to go do an open house, and I was all dressed. I was looking fly, ready to sell the house that day. And as I'm walking out of my apartments, my lights turned off because my electricity got
Right. You ain't
disconnected.
paid a bill.
Yeah, I didn't pay the bill, and I wasn't fooling myself or anybody else. Like I just didn't have it. But I left and I said, still, I'm gonna go sell this house. There's nothing I can do about that. I don't have the money. So whatever. So I get to the house, first hour goes by, nobody comes in. Second hour goes by, still nobody. And I was trying to work this house. By that third hour, this was a large vacant house. They didn't even have on any electricity, so it's kind of cold in there. And I remember going and locking the door, and I literally fell to the ground and just started bawling my eyes out.
Mm.
I had a real breakdown in that house, to the point where I was just like, why am I doing this? I've moved all across the country. I've spent every bit of money I had. My lights are off at home. I barely have any gas. I'm not going to have any more food. And I've told everybody that I'm going to be successful in this and be this real estate agent when everybody was telling me not to do it because the market was bad. And here I am. And they were right. Like, what am I doing? And that was literally my point of failure in this business. And so I'll never forget that time. But yeah, that was one of my toughest moments. But I knew in that moment, once I recovered from it, once I picked myself up and brushed my shoulders off, like I knew moving forward, anything that I did, I would never, never, never allow it to get to that position again. Like I wasn't going to let it happen anymore. And I would say that it propelled my career. Like I needed to have that moment, but it knocked me down. And then I
Yeah.
had to pick myself up, and I'm still picking myself up today, but we are soaring, and it's totally different now.
Man, I love that. And here's what I'll tell you. I had one of my good friends on. Her name is Allison Bird. But long story short, I had her on and she had talked about right now, when you look at her from third party, she's super successful. But I asked her at what point does she know that she arrived? And she had said she basically told the story of her deepest, darkest moment. So when I heard you say that was my point of my lowest point of failure, in my mind, it said that was your arrival point. That was the point where it was like, look, I can't lose at anything else. I'm already in and you could have quit. But then look at where you are today. And so I say that because there's a lot of people out there that, especially us going through a pandemic, us going through what we're seeing as far as George Floyd, Black Lives Matter, all of these different things, Jacob Blake, and people are feeling like, man, there's no hope, but there's always hope and your future is always brighter than ever. So I want to fast forward to what was the things that you started to do? Was it just a change of luck, or was there specific things and tactics that you started to put into place of how you started to actually drive business? What did that look like?
I don't want to say that it was a change of luck because I'm a big believer in energy.
Hmm.
I shifted the energy coming to me because literally that next week I ended up getting an offer on it and I ended up successfully closing it. The agent bullied me through the whole way, but luckily made it to the closing table. But there was a shift in energy in the forces that were working for me at that point because it wasn't so much me having this novelty idea of real estate in my head and how it was supposed to be. It was me experiencing how something works from start to finish. And that was the only thing that I could relate it to. I can only relate a real estate transaction to being in that property weekend after weekend, month after month, and it taking that long. So then I was able to frame my mind differently and my expectations changed. And so I said to myself, okay, so I know that's what it's going to take. So I need to get like 10 of these now, all going at the same time.
Right.
So that way, like I was forming all these different timelines in my head on that, what I see a lot of people do. And I'm glad that I didn't do this because it would have totally been the wrong way. People start looking for the easier route or the shortcut. Me, I didn't do that. I was like, okay, this is how it is. Now I'm going to stack these on top of each other and make it work. Luckily, I can see now it doesn't have to be like that, but I didn't go looking for a shortcut. So for me, it wasn't necessarily a shift in tactic or me doing anything differently. I just did it way more. Like I was on that phone every day. That's what made me believe in cold calling because that's how I got the listing. I learned a lesson in doing what I say that I'm going to do because of that one shot. Okay, now I'm doing that for everybody. It was just more so really being on it and being on it a lot more than I was.
Man, I love it. And experience is always going to be your best teacher. That's what I'm hearing. And so you experienced it. So it's like your belief in whatever. Once you've experienced it, no one can talk you out of it. But it was, you had to go through the trenches to know that, hey, if I just go that extra mile, because for a lot of people that don't go through the trenches, they don't go all the way through the trenches. And maybe you're only making 5 calls a day, right? Cold calls. And then you just quit. So then you're thinking cold calling doesn't work. But for that person that goes 15, 20, 25 cold calls a day, and then on the 25th one, they get that listing similar like now you can't tell them, but it's because they went through the trenches.
Yep.
They understand that I got to go a little bit more, but my next yes is coming. So I love that you brought that up. Were you always let me ask, did social media in the beginning propel your business to scale quickly? Or was this something that on the backside you were like, okay, let me just make sure that I incorporate it to be future proof?
No, my social media journey didn't really start out with any type of intelligence behind it, in a sense of I wasn't attending social media classes for real estate or things like that, because when I started, it was just now coming about that realtors were starting to really put themselves out there on social media. For me, it was one, the fact that I was a millennial. I was just used to social media. I was raised on MySpace and then Twitter and Facebook, YouTube. It was just second nature to me. And then secondly, I didn't know like the standard rules of real estate, or what do you call it, like self-promotion, or how people looked at it. I didn't know, and I didn't really care. Keep in mind,
I was here in Dallas and I just moved here. I didn't know anybody who was going to judge me. So me on social media, it was more so me using it as a way to try to attract more, to make myself look presentable. I was young. I didn't talk the best. I didn't know a lot of good words. I wasn't very professional, but I did have these networks that I was on, and I was just living my normal life. But at that point, I was living it through the lens. I was letting people in, I was letting people see, and I was being transparent about it, which I've always been. Nowadays, fast forward, people have the option to be somebody that they're not, versus back then, I wasn't thinking in that mind frame. It was just like, hey, here's me. Let me talk about what I'm doing, where I'm doing it, all that good stuff.
Man, and that's crucial to know, because so many people, they get fearful of social media, no matter what age you are. But even it's crazy to see that, just like you and I, other millennials, they're fearful. But I took two things away from what you said, and you could correct me if I didn't hear those. But number one, the first thing was ignorance was bliss. So you didn't know anyone else. So you were ignorant to the fact of like people judging you or whatever. You're like, I don't know nobody. I don't know the rules. So I'm just go out there and I'm gonna be me, which is great. And then the second one was the fact that you allowed yourself to document your journey rather than trying to create something. Because a lot of the times where people get fearful is they're trying to create something because they saw someone else create it. But when you're not worried about everybody else and you're saying, hey, I don't know no one to even be looking at what they're doing here in Texas, like I'm just going to document, here's where I am at this stage in my career. And then that allowed you to stay authentic, and that allowed you to really grow your tribe really quickly. So I say that to hopefully somebody else that right now is not using social media, that they're like, okay, I did just move to Denver, or I did just move here. I'm thinking about getting into real estate, but I don't have a network. Ignorance can be bliss for me as well.
Yep. Yep. And it's even still true for today. Yeah. I've grown on social media. I have a following, I have a tribe, programs, books, all that kind of stuff. But I still have to remain at my core, not really worried about what everybody else is doing. Because if I'm fully consuming myself with what Brian's doing or what Ricky's doing, or Danny or anybody else, I'm gonna feel like I don't amount to them, or I don't amount to something that they're doing in their business, or that they're saying. I have to be my authentic self. And people have called me out before in the past when I did seem like I was veering off, or I was trying to do something that somebody else was doing. And I realized that that's not what they wanted. They just wanted me to be me. And so even today, like I just have to be me. I'm not really worried about being the biggest. I know that I'm not the smallest, but hey, I'm just me.
Man, that's so dope. Where do you feel like you generate most of your business right now? Is it your sphere? Where do you feel like someone who is struggling right now, what's that hack? Should they be looking at Facebook ads? Should they be looking at a CRM that's providing an all-in-one solution? Is it really people are losing the thought of human connection, so they should be focusing on their sphere? What's it for you?
No, definitely my sphere, database, personal network of people. 100%. For me, luckily, that sphere is a lot larger now, but it took a lot of work to get to the size that it is, and it includes agents all over the country. It includes family members. It includes business associations, everything like that. But I've tried it all, and I got to a point in my business where I had closed maybe around like 70 deals, 60, 70 deals. This was years ago. And I realized that I was still doing the same things that I was I was doing at the beginning, but it felt like I was just on a wheel. Okay, once one closes, on to the next. Once one closes, on to the next. I didn't feel like the business was actually growing. And when I looked in, I said, all these people in real estate talk about referral-based business, referral, referral, referral. Like, why am I not getting any referrals? And that's when I realized I hadn't invested in the people who not only who I've helped, but who I know. I just assumed that people were just going to start sending me business. I just assumed that my family was always going to refer people to me, and my friends. Like, I just assumed, but that wasn't the case. So then I turned my business upside down and really started focusing on the people. And it's given me way more business than I've ever had in my whole career once I started doing that. I believe that there's a different type of business that you get from a referral. And I commonly break leads up either A, B, or C leads. And an A lead is someone who is referred with value. They're ready and willing to and able to complete a real estate transaction. And then they're willing to follow your process.
Mm.
When we get leads off social media or random websites or anything like that, those are like C leads. They don't have those things that the A lead has. They have no attachment to you. They're not referred with value. They don't care if it's you or some other realtor for the most part. So really investing in people took a major turn in my business, and that's where 90% of my business comes from these days.
Love it. Now, you gave us what an A lead is. You gave us what a C lead is, but let's not leave it out. What's the B lead?
Here it goes. So an A lead, referred with value. They are ready, willing, and able to complete a real estate transaction. And then they are able to follow and willing to follow your process. A B lead is missing one of those things. Okay. And then a C lead is missing two or more of those. Okay.
Got it.
So you just take it down. But yeah.
And if they ain't doing none of them, then they're a D lead, or you still leave them as a C? It's just the A, B, C.
I don't even talk to them at that point.
Got it. No, I get you there. And I think that that's good for people to be able to have some type of a concrete structure, to be able to put things into a system. Okay, I heard what Chaston said, and here, this would qualify as a B lead. And now I know how to work that. So I like that you said that. Fast forward. You didn't start off your career of where you are now. And this is something that I was happy to see, that you're at this brokerage, but make no mistake about it, it's EXP. So my question to you is, when you got the call for EXP, how did EXP come into Chaston's world?
Yeah, so I got the call about EXP probably about 5 years ago from this guy named Pat Hayes. And it was 5 years ago, and Pat and I knew each other because, keep in mind, I was a newer agent at that time. I think I was maybe 3 years in the business when he called me, and I was just trying to make money. So what I was doing, since I had been on this social media thing, I was creating graphics for people. And so I was designing like Pat Hayes' like Facebook headers and maybe a few little advertisements, just because I knew Photoshop by that time. And then he had left his firm and moved over to EXP. Now, I had never heard about EXP. Nobody who I ever talked to had heard about EXP. And Pat Hayes was like, man, you just got to trust me on this and just come over. And I told Pat, I was like, no, Pat, I think you're just going through a little rough time right now. Like, I know what happened with your other brokerage, and I get it, but it's not the move for me. And then, so that ship sailed. Then every year, like all through the year, I was starting to hear more and more about EXP. I was growing on social. People were reaching out to me. I knew people who were moving over to EXP, but they were all like newer agents, right? There were all these new agents, and I had briefly looked at the model, and I was like, oh, they're just trying to recruit me for this and that. And then it wasn't until a year ago because by now I've elevated myself, I've elevated my business. I'm in a different crowd of people. I'm in a different room with some top producers, and they started going over to like EXP and telling me about it. And I was like, wait, like, you have a full-on brokerage. You are the number one agent team leader at your KW branch. Like, you're invested in this office. You mean to tell me y'all are jumping ship? And this one lady, her name's Tierney, she has a large amount of credibility and influence here in this market. She's done very well. She talked to me about the opportunity for a whole year. And then I finally went on over, and it was more so one of those things where, for one, I couldn't escape it, because it was like everywhere I turned, it was everywhere now versus before where I didn't see it anywhere. And then secondly, I'm a business owner at this point, and my mind is working differently. It's working more like a business owner and not just like an agent.
Wow.
And so I look at opportunities differently. And then it was one of those things where once you know, you can't not know. It's just in the back of your head all the time. And so I was tired of it just being there. And I was just like, what the heck? And I just took a huge leap of faith and did it. So,
Man, how is your business now compared to, has your business grown? Has your business stayed the same? What's that look like for you?
it's like nothing I've ever experienced before.
Explain. Because a lot of people listening, watching it, what does that mean?
I've operated my whole career as a solo agent, making it by paycheck to paycheck. I was making money and I was closing deals, but I was on what I felt like was a hamster wheel. And here's when I noticed that we had this huge production board in my previous brokerage that was on the wall every day. It had all the agents on there and all of our productions all through the year. As you would close more, your number would go up. As everybody was on there, you knew who everybody's production, you knew what everybody's production was. Worked so hard all through the year to get my number as high as possible. I had moved in like the top 1%. I was all the way up there. And then there was like the second week in December, I came into the office and the board was erased. It was erased because they're resetting it for the next year. But in my mind, it was just like, gosh, you worked so hard. And then one day it's all gone, ready for you to just start over again. And that's how I felt. Like, it didn't really matter about the money I had. It was like the whole fact of the matter and principle, like, gosh, January 1st just like restarts this. And I was tired of that. I wasn't building anything. I was just going from year to year, transaction to transaction. Mm-hmm. So what's changed me at EXP now I'm building something. I'm building a business, of course. I'm building an organization. I'm building an office, and I'm also building a legacy. And that's something that I wasn't doing before. And so those are the four big ways that my business and my life has changed. And I can go deeper into them if you want me to, but those are the four just big overarching ways that it's changed for me.
Yeah, and we're definitely going to tap into those a little bit. But one question that I have, and I know that a lot of people have that are watching or listening to this, is you had a lot of volatility when you first started out. Right? You told us at the beginning about how much stress that you were under in that first year for you, especially being in a brand new market. For somebody right now that's thinking about getting into real estate, and EXP is maybe even on the board for them, would you say that it's good for a new agent knowing what you know about your journey, your situation? Or would you say honestly that it might be worth it to learn the game at another brokerage after a year or two and then come over?
No, here's what I would say, and this is another reason why I appreciate EXP. EXP is a virtual firm. So with that being said, what I felt like they've done is they've tried to account for so many things to make sure that it's stable and that agents have everything that they need, even more so than your normal brick and mortar traditional brokerage. It's a firm that's comprised of people from all over the world who have seen all different things, structures, models, programs. And it's almost like they've taken some of the biggest and best masterminds and brought them together to say, like, how can we make this one of the most beneficial places ever? So with that being said, as a new agent, there is a tremendous amount of stuff, and this can go both ways. And I tell people this all the time because they approach me and they're like, oh, I want to learn and I want to soak up and I want to know everything. And then they get in here and then they're like, oh, it's so overwhelming. I'm like, wait a minute, which pick a side. But EXP recently within the last few months introduced this fast start program aimed at getting people onboarded and getting people in the brokerage, in the culture, get you trained and motivated, all that good stuff. I feel with agents connecting with the right people and taking into account all of our resources, all of our training, everything like that, yeah, you can be super successful, because I will 100% say that EXP has way more than I have had in all the places that I've been, like there's so much at this firm that I haven't even tapped into
myself
yet.
included.
Yeah. but it can be overwhelming, and it could be a lot, especially for a new agent, because you don't know what you need to know. You don't know which direction to go in. And with that, just follow the guides that are laid out for you. Don't feel like you have to go to every single training class. Take the recommended ones, go through the fast start programs, work with your mentors, all that kind of stuff. Just follow the process, follow what's already laid out, and it will work out.
Man, and I love that you brought up that part of following your mentors, but also one thing that people neglect the fact is EXP, in my experience, and you could speak to your experience, the collaboration has been something that's unheard of in the real estate world. You and I have had the pleasure to, and we had never had a real conversation before right now, just for people to know, but you and I had the pleasure of both being at a couple off-branded EXP events. One was in Puerto Vallarta, and then another, they might have both been in Puerto Vallarta, or were you in the one in Vegas? Well, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Was it Vegas? Were you in that one too? Mm-hmm. So we've had the opportunity to see these, right? Which is outside of the corporate EXP, but it's just the leaders putting on training, putting on masterminds, just like you said, and you get the opportunity to pick the brains. And because of the way that EXP is structured and modeled, that everybody's not competing with each other, which isn't a normal brokerage. Everybody's loving it. I know when I first got in, I'm telling people now, when I first got in, and how long have you been in?
I've been in about 1.5 years now.
Okay, so I've been in a little bit longer than you. I've been in about 2.5 years. But when I first got in, maybe a little bit longer than that, it might have been 3 years. But when I first got in, the stock price was like $6.75, right? Mm-hmm. Now everybody's going crazy over it. I am too, because it's great. But it just shows a collective effort that we're all winning together. And we're all building a business, like you said. So I love that. But the collaboration is something that I love that you brought that part up, and you talked about the mentorship. Because there's so many high-level people inside of EXP that will mentor you just because. Yeah, that's so powerful, man. It's so powerful. This has been a phenomenal conversation. One last question that I want to ask you is, on your journey, right? It's been a journey of ups and downs, but I'm proud of you, my brother. I'm glad to see that you're still pushing through. You're still smiling. My question is to you, when you look back at your journey, your whole career in real estate, if there was one thing that you could have done to help accelerate your dream and your journey to where it is now, what would that one thing have been?
Gosh, I think that question and the response to that question goes back to what I said earlier about the people that I was working with and contacting, taking care of people, because there was a lot of damage that was done just because I didn't stay in touch with people who had helped me out along this journey. My sphere, sending gifts, client appreciation events, just picking up the phone, asking how people were doing. Helping 70 families close on a house and never talking to them again for 2 years. That was, even when I started calling people back, just imagine some of the stuff people were like saying to me. And then also to find out that some of them had moved again. Some of them had sold again and bought another place. And I remember one day I literally sat there and I had a checklist of all the people who had done another real estate transaction. And I was like, that was straight up money that I left out there. Like, that 70 deals could have been 100 for me if I would have just called and follow up. The one thing that I would have did differently was I would have had a better process for staying in touch, for asking for referrals, for just being with people. I wouldn't have just been so transactional. I would have been more relationship based.
Man, and I think that's very critical for anybody listening, whether you're seasoned or whether you are a brand new agent. And the reason why is because a lot of the times we just got to be honest with ourselves and get out of our own way. And I know the same thing happened with me, where I was talking to my people, but more so I was talking indirectly to them because I'm still in real estate. They're seeing that I'm still in real estate, but they felt like they were no longer valuable. Because you're not reaching out directly to them to just say, and it's so easy. But here's something that I learned from Jim Rohn, and anybody who's a Jim Rohn fan can appreciate this. But he says the things that are easy to do are also the things that are easy not to do. So it's easy to reach out, even in the technology world that we got today, to send a text message to just say, hey, it didn't need anything, Mike. Just hope you and Jody are doing good. Yep. That's it. That right there in itself, just saying, hey, I didn't need anything. Just woke up this morning. You were on my mind. You were on my heart. Hope all is
I do it all the time. Yep.
Man, but
Right.
we neglect that because we're so, like you said, on a hamster wheel chasing another deal, and we forget that we wouldn't even have to chase if we just cultivate what we already have built.
Yep. Yep. And another bit of advice on that while we're on it is there's no need to overcomplicate it. I've found that, and I even deal with this with some of my coaching students. They'll try to overcomplicate something so much to the point where they don't do it. No, it doesn't need to be overcomplicated. You don't need to go get a software. You don't need a mass responder. You don't need some new tech. No, just pick up your freaking phone and send a text message. When did that become so hard to where you needed to go invest? You just want to pay me to do it? Yeah, I would. Okay, I get it. You're not about this anymore. But it's not that complicated. And I was even at that point, like when I realized that, like I was trying to overcomplicate it. I felt like I had to do the most. When in actuality, like just saying hi, like you said, how you doing? Didn't need anything, just checking in on you. It goes a long way.
It goes
even further sometimes than just receiving branded pen in the mail that you sent everybody. So yeah,
for sure. No, man, this has been a phenomenal conversation. I'm so blessed that you came onto the show and shared your wisdom with us. For anybody who's looking to stay in touch with you, where can they find you at?
Sure. Just visit my website, chastinjmiles.com. So that's CHASTINJMILES.com.
Got it. That's all we got for this one. Remember, Dream Nation, in the dream we trust. But just as he said, you got to pick up the phone. You got to take action, because otherwise that dream that you have will only merely be a fantasy. That's all we got for this one. We'll catch you on the next one. First, I want to say thank you for allowing me to walk with you on this real estate journey. If you've gotten anything out of this episode, do me a favor and head on over to iTunes if you have access and leave me a review. My whole goal is to make sure that I'm serving you all the right way. You're my tribe. You're who I care about. You're why I do this. So if you want to give me any type of thanks, or if you want to let me know whatever your thoughts or your feelings are from this episode or any other episode that you've listened to, leave me a rating or review. And also, if you're looking for more tips, strategies, and even resources when it comes to leveling up your real estate game, head on over to Dreamnationacademy.com. We have a really cool real estate section there, and it's something that I wish that I would have had when I first got started in real estate. So that's Dreamnationacademy.com. Don't wait. I'll see you on the other side.